Hello, everyone. It's very nice to be here with all of you and to have the opportunity to share our stories with you. My name is Hayriye Rüzgar, and this is my friend and colleague at the Humphrey Cooperation, Andri Christofides. We come from a tiny island in the Mediterranean called Cyprus that is divided in even tinier pieces. I come from the northern piece, and my mother tongue is Turkish.
And I come from the southern piece, and my mother tongue is Greek. So we know that the terminology can get quite confusing, sometimes even for us. So let us mention some keywords you will hear us talk about a lot. And it might be useful from time to time to have a look at the screen to follow the conversation more easily. So let's start with the green line. That's the line you can see on the map that divides the island in two. It stretches for 180 kilometers.
The divide in Cyprus, came as a result of intercommunal clashes between the Turkish Cypriot and the Greek Cypriot communities, which was initiated and fueled by extreme nationalist guerrilla organizations that was formed in both communities. The division line came into existence in 1964, but it took its current shape after the military intervention by Turkey in 1974.
So we have north of the divide and south of the divide. In 1975, Turkish Cypriots moved to the north side of the divide, whereas Greek Cypriots moved to the south as a result of the population exchange agreement.
The buffer zone, it's the gray area that you can see on the map that runs across the island from the west to the east.
Checkpoints. These are the entry or exit points to an area controlled by one of the two communities.
And finally, the Home for Cooperation, where we are working. It's an intercommunal community center located in the UN buffer zone in Nicosia, trying to bring the communities of Cyprus closer based on contact through their common interest and arts-based peacebuilding programs. Now, I thought to set the starting date of my story as 2003, when the first checkpoints in Cyprus were opened, because I believe that had a great impact on who I am, my studies, and my career. I come from a small town in northwest of Cyprus, which is called Morphu, or Güzelyurt, or Omorfo, depending on the language, Greek or Turkish, depending on who you are talking to, because these labels can change according to one's perspective. And finally, depending on the dialect, because Cypriots speak differently than formal Turkish or formal Greek. So, in 2004, I had just started middle school, and I remember my teachers not coming to school to attend demonstrations for peace, because we were going to have a referendum on the Annan peace plan. And growing up at a time like this, you can say that my interest in the Cyprus conflict started at a very young age, and quite positively. And my ideas and my feelings were shaped accordingly, supported with the opening of the checkpoints and the possibility of contact with the Greek Cypriot community. That's why I decided to study political science and international relations in Istanbul. And then I moved on to study political communications in Amsterdam, as I could feel this is much needed in Cyprus. After 7 years of living abroad, I returned to Cyprus in 2015.
Meanwhile, I would like to set the starting date of my story in the same year, in 2015. At the time, I was studying English literature, I was writing my dissertation, and I was focusing on the hostility of the Cypriot national identity in relation to its post-colonial conflict upon independence. So basically, I was studying about Cyprus, I was studying about Cypriots, but I was excluding half of my country in what I thought at the time was very well-rounded research. So when I moved to Belgium to study social anthropology, I began realizing that at 23 years old, I didn't really know anything meaningful about the other half of my country. For this reason, when I started writing my thesis for my master's, I decided to study the transformation of borders in Nicosia, both literally and symbolically. And for that research, at the age of 24, I crossed the buffer zone for the first time, and I visited the north side of my country for the first time, and I began experiencing this transformation myself. So, like Hayriye, after 6 years of living and studying abroad, I returned to Cyprus in 2018.
And note that neither of us had any meaningful, long-lasting contact with someone from the other community all this time, until we joined the Home for Cooperation team in the buffer zone.
At a location that was supposed to be the buffer to keep us from fighting one another.
Instead, every day, we are transforming this area not to fight each other, but to fight together against the idea of being and staying apart.
Okay, this buffer zone, or as the Greek Cypriots call it, the dead zone, was indeed dead for many, many years. I remember as a teenager, when I was younger, I would go out with my friends in the old part of town, which was closer to the border. And there was always this underlying fear of not accidentally crossing the buffer zone and ending up in the other side and being arrested by Turkish Cypriot authorities. Now, I'm not sure why we thought it was so easy to accidentally cross a heavily militarized buffer zone, but this fear was very strongly instilled in us. For example, I remember when I was 18 and I got my driver's license, I was always so careful when driving in the old city so as not to accidentally cross to the other side.
When I look back, I remember discussing with my friends at school about where people go when they die. The adults would refer to it as they're gone to the other side and they're watching their loved ones all the time. Children are not always good with metaphors. So we used to think that they would actually fly over the border and they would watch us from the other side of the divide. Today, I cross to the other side to spend time with my friends who actually live on the other side. There was life. We just had never heard of it.
So today, at the Home for Cooperation, where we met and where we work, we are constantly trying to find new and creative ways for people who share the same experiences as we have to step outside of their comfort zone and to form a larger one and more peaceful one together. Working at the Home for Cooperation, for me personally, has been life-changing. It has shown me that if you trust people to come together, then wonderful things can happen. As a programs and knowledge officer at the Home, I can not only continue to observe the Cypriot reality as a social anthropologist, but I can grow within a team, within an organization that has a clear goal of bringing communities together to cultivate trust and respect and to humanize the other, whoever that other may be. So through weekly workshops, through language classes, through guided city tours across the divide, through performing arts festivals within the buffer zone itself, and through all kinds of events, we're building bridges and we're inviting people to cross them when they're ready.
Coming back to Cyprus after so many years was not so easy. To face with the frozen conflict every day, to see that not many things have moved forward, and most importantly, to realize that many people have lost hope. The communications officer position at the Home was very timely for me, not only because I could apply my education into practice, but also it sparked the hope in me that had started to fade away. Organizing these events in the buffer zone or across the divide, campaigns, giving interviews, promoting values like coexistence, diversity, respect, these are not just my responsibilities at work. These are the things that I would do and I will do simply as someone living in and caring about the future of Cyprus. And the most precious outcome of this work is when you see someone crossing the checkpoints for the first time through your efforts, when people who didn't know each other before start new collaborations.
We know that we are presenting a model for the future of Cyprus, a model which proves that even though we've been separated for many decades, there is still so much ground which we share, on which we can build on, to start imagining things together, to start achieving things together, and to learn how to live together once again. These may not be that clear for the majority in Cyprus, but we live through this experience every single day, and for us it's pretty clear that this is not just a utopian scenario or a dream. For us, it's reality.
In our team, we refer to the Home for Cooperation as a seed planted to grow in people's hearts, minds, and lives. And we will do our best to nurture it until it grows all over Cyprus. Then the next step would be to protect it and keep it alive. That is the sustainable peace in Cyprus, which is owned by all communities living on the island. Thank you.